Hello everyone, I'm Rashmi Bhandary and I have two of my students. We have got Dimple and Shreyas. Hello both of you.
Hello ma'am.
Yeah, so they're from the CS branch and they've got into Airbus, okay, so it's very prestigious. So let's hear it from them, how do they get into this? How did you apply for?
So this was a challenge by Airbus. So I had applied for two of the challenges. One was Wonder Hacks, which was just for women, and the other was Aerathon. So I have got selected in both, after which we had technical and HR rounds conducted.
So this challenge was from?
It was from Hackathon.
So Hackathon.
Yes.
So you regularly?
Yes. So it's very important to keep on checking the job challenges in Hackathon, because there are so many jobs that come by. The prestigious Microsoft, Google, every company puts their challenges in Hackathon. So it's very important you go through the challenges.
All right. And Shreyas, how was it for you?
Yes ma'am, so it was basically through Hackathon and Aerathon challenge. So I had applied in the Aerathon challenge, and then there was a coding round initially. So
okay.
Yes, in that coding round there were two questions. One was an array based and another was a graph based. So in array based, so what we had to do is there is a number, there are three numbers. So in that, for example, the number is 145. So it's a 140. The number is 145. So, but these numbers are split up into three sections and put up in each array blocks. So 1, 4, and 5. So what you have to do is you have to increment the last number. So if it is 145, and you'll have to return it as 146. So 140. But the returning format has to be in an array. So, and another one was graph. So in the graph it was common for both of us.
Okay.
In this graph section, so you had to check if the tree is balanced, like if the left hand side sum is equal to the right hand side sum. So if it's balanced, then you have to say the tree is balanced and return as yes. So those were the two questions which we had to solve in the first round of Aerathon.
Okay, so that was done. The same thing was there for you also.
For me, yes. For Hackathon, it was the Aerathon. It was same. For Wonder Hacks, I had one question was to convert Roman numerals to decimals and decimals to Roman numerals. So there were a lot of edge cases that I had to go through. So that was one thing. And for graphs, I had to see if it was a balanced tree at the end. So that was pretty. It was medium to difficult. The difficulty level was medium to difficult. So
all right. So then after that, what was the next round?
Yes ma'am, so the next round, once we cleared the coding round, we had a prototyping stage. So here they gave us a problem statement. So the problem statement mainly was like you have to build a web platform or anything, so where you can select which language do you want for front end, which do you want for back end. So once the user selects what kind of language for front end and back end, or the database also, it has to give out a template with all these codes. So you can directly start coding and making changes to the template. So it will be a head start. So that was a web portal which we had to create. And the ones who had cleared or submitted the prototypes were then qualified for the
so we had formed a group.
Okay, so how many students were there in this?
In our group there were 4 people.
Okay.
So me, Shreyas, Gaurav, and one more from IS, Mohan.
All right.
So we were selected for the next round. That was the technical and the HR round.
Okay.
So in technical they contacted I think 2 months later they contacted, and they were like so we like to schedule technical. So technical.
So when did this process start actually?
Wonder Hacks, it was on March.
Oh, March. So
and,
okay.
Aerathon, it was on May.
Okay.
So it took a lot of time for them to come up with the results. Then technical round they had scheduled for everyone. So technical round, it was if you are good with the like all the basics that you have come through all this year, especially subjects like OS, networks, OOPS and DS, the 4 main subjects in any interview.
Alright, so that's it. If someone is actually concentrating on this, that should be good enough.
These 4 subjects are important in every interview.
Alright.
So for the first question that was asked is to detect if the linked list was a loop, it was a cyclic linked list. If yes, then print the last element. So that was one question, and the next question is how does the network work? Like, so if I'm typing a website, how does it work in the back end? So that was one question. And another one was deadlock. How can I prevent deadlocks? So what are the different avoidance algorithms that you can use, deadlocks and semaphores, basically operating systems. And then there were some very generic based questions that you observe on day-to-day basis. So for example, why do you think a tire's color is black? So that is something we see every day, but not all of them know. So that.
So what's the answer?
So mainly because of the heat. Since it's black in color, the heat cannot be. The heat cannot be absorbed easily.
Okay.
So that's one thing.
So you knew the answer.
Yes, I do have regularly. So we talk.
So you get this multiple choice, or is it like no, you should know the answer?
It's not multiple choice.
They try to know how
You're general aware. Okay, all right.
These are the minute things you notice. So it was like, and what is it coated with? That is carbon. It's coated with carbon. So that's also very important when it comes to an interview, where you know even the basic how things work.
Yes.
So after that, I was qualified for the HR. This interview was about an hour.
Alright.
So hour and
The technical interview was for an hour.
Yes.
All right. For you, Shreyas, how was it?
For me, the interview was a lead full stack developer. So going through my resume, I had mentioned I had done my internship in a front-end developer. So since that was, I had mentioned it was front-end development, she asked me more of HTML and CSS questions. So the questions might include like niche things like what is a box model. Those things we learn, but we don't give a lot of attention to. So I had to explain what was that, and since I have done my internship on React Native, so she asked me what is DOMs, how virtual DOMs work.
So where did you do your internship?
So it was in a startup called QuizX.
Okay.
So
Where is that? It's an online or?
No, it's a Bangalore-based startup.
Okay.
I worked as a React Native developer there, as a front-end developer, and had done my UI UX designing also in the same internship.
Alright.
So yes, so I had questions regarding that, and moving on, she asked me about object-oriented questions like OOPS, the 4 pillars of OOPS, and then questions were like about OOPS and operating systems. So mainly like how do you think a multi-threaded processing works? So that was one more question.
So once they ask a question and you answer, does it end over there, or then they ask a question again to what you have asked, to what you have answered? There's a follow-up question?
Yeah, depends. For me, in React Native especially, since I had mentioned React Native, so once I mentioned it was DOM, she asked me more about how asynchronous function works, and like how do you connect to the server, or like how do you expect the data to flow into the phone, and how do you wait for it, so based on that. Then she asked me what are the subjects which I had taught in the college. So when I mentioned C++ for object-oriented programming, so she was like, why do you think in C we always say there is void main, and even if the main function is not returning anything, why is there an option of integer main? Like it's not returning anything, right? But why is there an option there? So that's something like very minute things. We'll have to.
But you knew about it.
I did not know surely, but I told according to how I understood the stuff. But it was the right answer.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So then even both of you had an HR.
Yes, both of us.
So what was your HR? It was a long one,
HR. I think they contacted after 2 or 3 days. That was the round where they rejected most of the people. It was technical. They passed like many were in, but HR you had to be. One thing in HR is whatever company you're interviewing in, make sure you know everything about the company. So for us, for me, it was one question was, what do you know about Airbus? So we had to tell in the software section what are they working. So going through their website, there was something called Skywise where they use it for where they get different flight data and use it for avoiding AOGs. AOGs is airplane on ground, where it is it's a measurement where the longer the airplane stays on the ground, it's higher the risk.
Okay.
So to avoid, so that was one software. Then there were questions like, if not given the role, what would you do? So you have to be prepared for it. And they had asked, why would you want to leave your previous role? So that is.
So what was your thing if you didn't get into Airbus?
I had another offer, so I was planning on continuing with that offer. But however, Airbus was a company I already, aerospace industry that I really wanted to get in, so I gave my best for that.
Okay, all right.
Oh yes ma'am, for me there were 2 HRs actually. So the first HR, he asked me general questions like, it was so basically you're given with 3 boxes and the labels are jumbled. So there's an in one box there's an apple, and the other box there is orange, and the third box there is apple and oranges together. So you'll have to label it properly the least amount of tries. So I had to figure out and answer that one question.
How do you figure it out?
So in the first question, you take one fruit out, and for example, okay, so you know that label is wrong. So when you take out, for example, there is an apple right now. So you know that label is wrong, so you keep it aside, and then put that apple back. Then you take another apple out of. I mean, if it's
you can open it.
You can pick one by one. You'll have to figure it out.
I had a similar question for one of the other interviews.
Okay.
So the approach is basically, so 3 are wrong. So you take out one, you know that's wrong. So you label it with the correct one. So as per as the question, you know the other two are wrong. So if you have one correct, so you interchange the other two. So that's a very popular HR question.
Okay. So how do you get to know all these answers? I mean, is it like you break your head, or you?
We had to. I took almost about 10 minutes for this question in my previous interview. So
I don't know. My approach would be like, apple would be a little
yes.
So then
that's also nice.
And this is a little lighter, and so maybe, and then that anyways
yes.
I don't know. I'm not an engineer, so my brain would work differently.
The HRs were very communicative, so you can tell your approach and they will ask you more questions. So it's like, can you do it from this approach, and can you figure it out in shorter ways? So that's what. They are very communicative. So you'll have to tell your approaches whenever you're thinking something in your mind, right? So communicate it with them. Just don't think in your mind.
They'll make sure if you're going in the right direction. If not, they'll try to give you a solution, a hint. So you can go in the right solution for that.
Alright. Any other question that?
Yes. Then it was mainly about what do you know about Airbus. So that's one very important thing you have to notice. Like whenever you're giving an interview, try to know as much as possible about the company. So yes, I had told about the Skywise, the software is what they use for controlling the planes all around the world. Like we know Airbus manufactures planes, but we don't.
There was a question where they asked what flights have we given, like which companies have we given our flights to?
Okay.
So that's Indigo, Lufthansa Air. So those things.
So you know their customers.
Yes.
And what is their newest model what they're working on right now. So yes, that's one more thing. And after that, then they were asking about do you want to know anything about the company?
Yeah.
So we're like what's work experience there, and the HR actually mentioned that the newest Harry from she was 1 year into the company, but then she's getting an opportunity to go to France with the freshers for a training. So it's like very common in Airbus for the training to happen in Europe.
All right. So great. So any message that you would want to tell your juniors, I mean, if they want to crack a company like yours, or any good company, how should they start preparing?
One thing is never ignore the base subjects. Like I said, networks, OOPS, DS, and if given you have SAN as well in your final year. So these subjects are very crucial. Any interview, either they will ask OOPS, anything, C++ or Java. Be good in any one of them. You don't need to know all the languages. Be good in any one of them. If so, that comes when it comes to OOPS. And if you want it to be more simpler, Python is there. And yes, all the other subjects are very important. But when it comes to interview, please don't miss out on these subjects. Try to understand rather than by hearting. It will be much simpler for you in the interviews. So that's something I would.
Okay.
Yes, and one more thing to add to it is keep checking websites like HackerEarth, HackerRank, and even LinkedIn. There's a lot of postings these companies do every day. So even though you feel like it's a very big company, I'll not be qualified for it, just apply. So there's a good chance you get selected. And another recommendation is try to get your resume very right. So because if when the HRs see your resume, if they see the main roles, I mean what they're looking for, you'll surely be selected in the resume shortlisting.
And make sure you don't include skills that you're not confident with. Just make sure all the subjects and topics you're confident with, include them in your resume, because when you're asked and you can't explain them, it will be a -1 for you from your side. So that's one thing.
Yeah, like if you're including your projects, try to know what you have done very well, because in most of the cases they will ask questions based on your projects.
Everything on
So
project.
on your project. So that's what. And in your leisure time, whenever you're free, just try to do a project. And if you don't have any projects which you have worked on, and that will be a plus point in your resume.
Okay. So thank you both, Dimple and Shreyas. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed this, and it's bye from both of us, all of us over here, and till we meet again.